And a good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim Director at WEIU TV and Radio. My guest today is Mr. Tim Meister. He is the Assistant Fire Chief for the Charleston, Illinois Fire Department. Welcome, Tim.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for the invite to come in.
Yeah, appreciate it. And we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about how the Charleston Fire Department, works in the community, helps educate, and kind of gets us, I guess constantly reminded of what we need to do or not need to do in terms of fire safety and hazards and things like that. But we obviously always want to start off with COVID talk because that's what we do here. Off mic, you were talking a little bit about it, but explain to the public maybe some of the ways the pandemic has changed the way the Charleston Fire Department and firemen in general do their jobs.
Yeah, so with our job, things don't change. It's just the amount of protection that we try to prevent or minimize the exposure that the firefighters are dealing with. And we have increased our amount of protection our firefighters are wearing on every incident, no matter if they're coming on a fire call or if they're transporting you in the back of the ambulance. We always have goggles on. We always have an N95 mask. If we're dealing with a patient that has COVID symptoms, we're most likely going to wear a gown too. So that has definitely changed. Before COVID, every now and then you would wear a mask, depending on what the call was, to try to prevent the contamination or the exposure to our firefighters. But if anything, COVID has opened up our eyes a little bit to minimize the exposure to our firefighters.
Now, is there a cost factor that affects the budget because you're ordering more masks, more gloves, more gowns, or whatever?
So yeah, we have had to increase our protective equipment budget per se. A lot of it is covered under a few grants that are out there through the federal government and the state government. So we've been able to help alleviate that cost. The city government here has always done a great job of providing us with the funds we need to purchase the equipment to protect our firefighters.
Okay. Fire safety during the holidays is always important. It's a good time to be reminded to change your fire, metal or fire detectors and all that. But what other things during the holidays that maybe we don't forget about? I know there's more candles and more lights everywhere. Talk about fire safety.
Yeah, so what we like to do is try to minimize fires by prevention and education. So we like to tell the folks, if you're cooking, please have a working smoke detector within 15 feet of whatever you're cooking. For grease fires, be sure not to use water. Use either a dry chemical extinguisher, or there's other extinguishers that are made just for grease fires, or baking soda. We like to prevent kitchen fires all the time. When it comes to candles, be sure if you light a candle, be sure it's in a position where it's not going to catch any curtains or any other fabrics or any flammable objects on fire that are close. And be sure we educate our children not to play with candles or any kind of fire. Make sure if you're going to light a candle, make sure it's out of the reach so a child cannot come and knock it over
Pets
or
as
move
well
it.
is the thing people forget about.
Yeah, so we like to tell people that. And when it comes to hanging Christmas lights or putting up Christmas lights throughout your house or on the outside, be sure we don't overload the circuits, the electrical circuits. So we see this too often where you're plugging in lights or any other electronic devices to multiple power strips or power sources. So that has a lot to do with the amount of fires that we have throughout the city and throughout the country. People overload their electrical systems, and that causes a lot of fires.
And a lot of times people use the old, outdated, strips, electric strips that have been around forever instead of buying a new one, an updated one, and sometimes those go bad. Is correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So the biggest thing is a lot of the older power strips, they don't have surge protectors built into it. Some of the newer ones do, so that'll help. It's basically a fuse that's built in and prevent the too much electricity going through or backfeeding. So
I know about 6 weeks ago you had a press conference where you introduced this new law that's going into effect into Illinois about smoke detectors and this 10-year sealed battery thing. So can you tell us a little bit about what that was and what people need to know about?
Yeah, so in Illinois since 1988, all single-family dwellings, multifamily dwellings were required to have a working smoke detector, at least on each level of the home, within 15 feet of a sleeping unit. And when they first came out, they were 9-volt batteries or AA batteries, and they would have to be changed out twice a year. With the new law, it requires all new battery-powered smoke detectors have a 10-year life battery in it. So there's no more changing batteries out 2 times a year. So we were given around 100 of these smoke detectors by the Illinois Fire Safety Alliance. So we have about 80 of those left that we help the folks that don't have the funding to switch out their battery-powered smoke detectors. So the goal of the 10-year battery life on the smoke detectors, you don't have to change the batteries out. Most folks, which I grew up in a household that had battery smoke detectors,
Yeah.
and I've been on numerous calls where if there's a smoke detector close to a kitchen, most likely the battery is gone. Or folks are stealing batteries out of smoke detectors to power their toys or
Yep.
other electronic devices. So the goal of this is once you install the smoke detector, you don't have to worry about it again, changing the batteries out or stealing the batteries. So
And that
they're
law,
always
is that law in effect, or does it go into effect January 1st?
No, it is in effect,
In effect
right
now.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you have a smoke detector that has a battery in it, and it's not one of the 10-year life batteries, you have until 2023
Okay.
to get everything changed over.
There is time then, okay.
There is time.
But people shouldn't take that much time, though, really.
No, we'd rather get everything switched over now. It's for your safety. We want every household within the city of Charleston and throughout the country to have a working smoke detector. We would love a working smoke detector in all sleeping units within 15 feet of a sleeping unit on each level of your home. Early notification, that is the goal of a smoke detector. We're trying to get citizens notified as quick as possible something is wrong in their house. So
Makes sense.
working smoke detectors give us that ability.
Obviously, we didn't know or didn't want this to happen before you were scheduled to be on the show. You from the Charleston Fire Department, we're talking to Tim Meister today, is that there was a fire in Charleston in Mattoon this week at a church. Tell me what you know about that fire, and Charleston, I guess, did assist.
Yeah, so that fire, the Mattoon Fire Department did a phenomenal job getting there. I believe they were dispatched to a confirmed fire at the church there, and they had smoke and fire when they arrived. They pulled hose lines. They did a phenomenal job. We go back and forth with the Mattoon Fire Department and the Charleston Fire Department with a rapid intervention team. So that's a team that is a group of firefighters. We usually send 3 firefighters and a chief over to them. They'll do the same thing to us. They're going either in a fire engine or a ladder truck, and we are there for their protection. So if one of their firefighters happens to get hurt or go down in the fire, we are there to get them out. So when our firefighters got there in Mattoon this weekend with our ladder truck, the operations and the amount of fire that they had to switch their tactics a little bit. So our firefighters went over there and actually helped with suppression efforts.
Okay.
So,
And do you have that with other area places, or just Mattoon, Charleston? I mean, do you Ashmore, Oakland, or any of that?
no, that is an auto-aid agreement between Mattoon and Charleston for that. But we do have other mutual aid agreements with Lincoln Fire Protection District. We have a mutual aid agreement with the area volunteer fire departments. If the fire gets too big, we're going to request as many resources and help that we can get.
But how many fires or how many calls do Charleston Fire Department work on in a week? I know you said you guys were swamped this day on a Monday morning.
Yeah, so our job never stops. Back when I first started over the summers, it would slow down a little bit just because of the amount of the population was mostly gone with the students being gone. I would say within the last 5 years, it doesn't change whether it's during a school year or over the summer. Our call volume is still about the same. We run around 100 to 120 calls a week. So last year, I think we did just over 5,300 calls. So most folks in Charleston don't realize that when you call an ambulance, you're going to get our firefighters there. If you call a fire engine, you're still going to get the same firefighters. Our firefighters are all paramedics including the chief and myself. So
Is that required now? Not to interrupt. I'm sorry, Tim.
It is required.
Okay.
So all our personnel will have to be paramedics.
That makes sense, though, when you think about it.
Yeah, it's a blessing. Okay.
5,300 calls in a town of our Charleston size. Is there any stats that you can compare that to? Is that good, bad, about average, or?
It's pretty busy.
For
a little community like ours, it is very busy. Let alone the ambulance. We have 5 ambulances in town. We staff 4 of them. 1 is a reserve, and the ambulance calls around 80 to 85% of our calls.
Okay. Everybody likes to, when they talk to firemen, they always want to talk about the big fire. So I want to be just like everybody else, because when you think about your 20 years of service here to Charleston, Illinois, what are some of the most memorable fires that you know that you were on and that are just kind of etched in your memory?
So we've had a lot of the bad fires. We've had a couple different fatalities. Those will always stick out in your mind. Blair Hall was a big one.
Yeah.
I will always remember being at home and my wife coming down the driveway saying, "Hey, you got a fire in town, and you should go into the fire station because something's going on." So I remember that one. Mother's was another big one. We've had a couple other big apartment buildings that caught on fire too. So you always remember the not so good ones.
Yeah. What is the adrenaline? Is that the right word? Or what is the feeling like when you know you're going to a Blair Hall, a Mother's, a Villa Pizza, or some of these monster fires that have occurred over at least the last 20 years? I mean, what do you feel like when you know that you've got to run into a burning building?
So things have changed over the years. I don't want to call myself too old, or seasoned. In the beginning, it was the excitement, the adrenaline. You're just so excited to get to do what you've been trained to do since the beginning. The older I got, the different positions I got in, now there's more responsibility. So the older I get, you still get excited. The adrenaline is still there, but you change it over. It's not really, you don't really get on edge per se. You somewhat try to slow down the incident and try to make good decisions, because
Is almost more of a responsibility factor kicks in than when you're a young fireman? Is that a safe way to say it?
Yeah, that is a safe way to say it. As a firefighter, you're there, you're pulling the hoses, you're still worrying about everything, but you have just a couple different things you're thinking about.
One thing that I've always noticed about firefighters is the camaraderie that you are like I hate the word gang because everybody thinks something bad, but you really are a gang of people that have the same mission. How do you build that camaraderie, when you're in your training and it continues on? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily would call it a gang.
That's the wrong
more
word.
of a family.
I can live with that.
So it's basically a family away from home. Some guys are spending more time at the fire station around your group of firefighters than you are with your normal family. So that camaraderie starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, first shift briefing. Everybody's together, getting a game plan for the day. They're eating meals together. Everything you would do with your family, they're doing it at the fire station. So eating, relaxing, training. Everybody's working together no matter what we're doing.
And you said in Charleston they're not looking for any, there's no help needed in terms of employment, but Mattoon is looking for firefighters, or could you
Mattoon is short right now. I wouldn't say we're not looking. We're always looking. We are going to be testing here again in March.
Okay.
We have nobody on our hire list. So we are looking for paramedics in the area, or soon to be paramedics, or field RNs to come in and test for us. I know we're going to have some openings coming up within the next year or two. So we're always looking. We're looking for that first female firefighter. We don't have one yet.
Oh, there you go. The call has been put out. Right?
So we would love to get a few of those in here to help us out, to make us more diverse and help us out.
There you go. Well, take us through the process. So let's say that, we'll just pick out Dan Jones as one of the guys working there. He wants to be a fireman, or what would be the process he needs to step?
So Dan would need to go and get his paramedic license. I know Lakeland College is a close one, along with Sarah Bush, to get their paramedic license. Once they get their paramedic license, or they're close to getting it, they can test. They can sit down and take a written test for the Charleston Fire Department. Once again, our test is in March. Application should go out here soon.
Okay.
So once they get their paramedic license, if they get over a 70% on the written test, we go straight into a physical agility test. Everything is condensed into one day. So we try to get everybody going. So first they start with the written test. If they pass it, then they go to the physical. If they pass it, we'll give them about a 2 or 3 hour break. Then they come back in for a interview with the chief and I and a few other members and directors from this city. So once they complete that, we put them on a eligibility list, and where they bring in copies of their certifications or any other education that they have that would try to put them on that list. Then whenever we have an opening, we would go through that list, do a background check, and hopefully hire them.
And you have nobody on that list as of now, right?
Nobody on the list as of now.
So anybody that retires, there wouldn't be anybody to be replaced. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, that's our fear. So we like to keep quite a few on that list. So for the sake something happens or somebody retires or somebody takes another job, then we can just fill somebody right into that position.
That makes sense. You mind me asking, Tim, what made you choose this job as a profession, life as a fireman?
So I've been very lucky. I always wanted to be a firefighter when I was younger.
You did? Okay.
I joined a volunteer fire department up where I grew up in Urbana at the age of 16 in their cadet program. I was able to get some training and some experience there. Back when I first started, you did not have to be a paramedic. They would send you to school. So I was able to get the job here when I was 22. So I've been here for 20 years, and I don't work for a living. I get to hang out with my friends. It's work, but
there's worse jobs, is what you're saying.
Oh, in my mind, yes, for sure.
There you go. Oh, that's neat. So now you think of Charleston as your home more than Urbana, right?
I do.
Awesome.
Been here 20 years. Kids are grown up here. It's definitely better.
Social media and communications and all this other stuff has changed since 20 years ago. Is there anything else that's changed in the firefighting business?
Social media is a big one. We do have a Facebook page. We use Twitter. We use Instagram. We're trying to give the public as much education as possible through those outlets. When it comes to safety, some of the equipment we use is definitely safer than it used to be. Fires, if anything, are hotter. They burn faster than they used to with all the products that we're now putting into the home versus the old wood, the things that could burn forever. Now, things burn a lot quicker and a lot hotter.
Are there other tips or advice you can give that keep our homes and businesses safe that we maybe don't think about on every day?
Yeah, so once again, having a working smoke detector close to living quarters throughout your home on each level, having a working carbon monoxide detector. You got to have one of those, especially if you have gas appliances or you park in your garage.
Yeah.
So having working detectors will definitely help. Having a working fire extinguisher in your kitchen will definitely help. Educating your kids on escape plans and what to do if something happens, whether it's somebody gets hurt, what to do. If somebody needs a police officer, what number do they call? If your house is on fire, where do we meet? What do we do? Do we just run around the house, or do we go to our meeting place? So just educating your kids on what to do if an emergency happens.
Something I was reading about this morning is something called a Knox Box that Charleston has implemented. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so any commercial establishment or any multi-unit dwelling over so many units, we require that the owners put up a Knox Box. This is a black box that's on the outside of your building. Only the firefighters have keys to that, and our keys are in a lockbox in the fire apparatus. In order for us to get the key out of the lockbox that's in our fire engine and our ambulances, we have to put a code in. So the system keeps track of who gets the key out, when the key was put away, and in this box that are on the outside of the building, that is the master keys for that building. So if anything, it speeds up the ability for the firefighters to get into the building if something was wrong or if there was a fire. Plus, it minimizes the damage that we have to do. We have keys, but I don't know if you want us to use certain keys to get into your building. That would be our axe, that would be our sledgehammers, other tools. So our job is to put out the fire as quick as possible, try to prevent folks from getting hurt, and prevent damage. That's not our goal. Our goal is to try to preserve your property and not to damage it.
So you think the Knox Box is a neat idea, though? Has it worked or helped, you think, in any fire?
Oh, it has helped tremendously. There is no more breaking doors. There's the speed of us getting in to figure out if there's an actual emergency. It's definitely helped in the response times.
And I'm assuming a guy named Knox invented it or came up with it. I have to ask where you get the name.
No, it's not. It's a national company.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of fire departments throughout the country use it. But the city of Mattoon uses it also. Their keys are different. So each key is different depending on what city or municipality you're working under.
That's pretty cool. That's really neat. Really neat, actually. How do you stay prepared? I mean, what are the things? Now you're doing it for 20 years. You can't get complacent. What does Tim Meister do to keep prepared in the firefighting job?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a geek when it comes to fire service stuff. I still watch videos. I still go to classes. I still try to train. Our firefighters do the exact same thing. They train at least once a week, depending on which discipline. So for our firefighters, we are hazmat trained. We're tech rescue trained. We're trained in paramedical services. We're trained to be a firefighter. So depending on which week it is, that's what they're doing training on, whether it's an EMS drill or tech rescue drill where we're dealing with hanging off a Carmen Hall and rappelling down to rescue somebody, or we're in a trench or a confined space. If it's a hazmat incident, we house the state MABUS 26 hazmat team and tech rescue team. So we cover 17 counties around us. So if they have an incident, we go to our trailers with all our equipment on it, we load up and we go and help whatever community needs the help.
Because Charleston's like the regional training center for some of that, right? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, so we have a regional training center. The University of Illinois comes down and teaches classes here too, out at our training site. We open it up to the other volunteer agencies that they can come in and get live fire training whenever they want. We are blessed with the resource of having a burn tower and a couple other props out there that train firefighters. So we open it up to all firefighters.
What about the thing that people do during the holidays? A lot of it's Thanksgiving, but they also do it during now, is this turkey frying thing that became famous a few years ago, I think, actually, with some radio guys in Indianapolis of all times. And now it's become part of our everyday life. But frying turkey is a scary thing.
It is. We deal with, I would say, probably 10 grease fires a year. Most of them aren't pertaining to turkeys, but frying a turkey can definitely be dangerous. Not doing it the correct way. Put the turkey in the pot and the grease basically overflows from that pot and gets to the open burn of the flame underneath. Then you have a big fire, and if you're doing it in your garage, which I pray that you're not, doing it outside, not on a wooden deck.
Yeah, the wooden
please.
deck is
Doing it out in a place where if something went wrong, it's not going to catch your house on fire. That's the goal. And nobody's going to get hurt.
Have you ever been presented with a fire or some situation that you and your chief or you and the other fire department were a little bit like, man, we don't know what to do here, and you kind of had to think back on your training? It was just a situation that you'd never heard of before and then had to react on the spot?
I don't remember of one happening like that. For us, we train so much, everything is pretty much second nature. Right. Now, we do bounce ideas off of one another, like, I'm not sure about this decision. But for us, if you put water on the fire, things are going to get better. Yeah. So the soonest that we can put water on the fire, things get better.
There you go. I want to tell you, Mike, the Kentucky story is too. I was going to say, tell the people in Kentucky that, but that's a long story. We'll get to that. What is the easiest and hardest part of being a fireman? We're talking to Tim Meister of the Charleston Fire Department today.
Probably the easiest thing, going there, hanging out with fellow firefighters. That's probably the easiest. The hardest thing, people are not calling you and asking us to come to their homes or coming to wherever they are if everything is okay. It's always, we are meeting people on their worst day. If something has gone wrong and their house is on fire, they've been in an accident, or their loved one is sick or dying, they're calling us to come in and help them. So that's probably the hardest component of the job, just the human nature, dealing with certain situations where no matter what you do, it's not going to make things better for the sake of health and safety that way.
That's a great answer, Tim. The other thing is you educate the public, kind of like this show is doing today, and we appreciate you coming in. Do you like that part of it? I know the radio and TV, you were kind of thrown in there today, but you're doing fine. But I mean, is that something you like to do, or would you rather just be the fire?
So I would much rather just be in a house that's burning or dealing with another emergency, but this is part of it. I would much rather meet people and try to educate people in fire safety and health safety. We do a great job here. We've got a couple different firefighters that really have taken up public education, and Captain James Calvert has done a phenomenal job where we travel around to the area schools giving students education on fire safety, what to do. We have a little demonstration that we do every October for Fire Prevention Month. Plus, we have an open house. So we are always in the schools. We're always trying to educate that way. We would much rather educate you on what to do and what not to do than come to your house when it's on fire or dealing with a loved one that's hurt.
Got about a minute and a half left. Let's do some rapid fire fun questions.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
Is there a favorite fire department themed TV show or movie that you think is pretty good?
I do like to watch Chicago Fire. I know a couple of the actors that are on the show, and they're really down to earth. They go to the University of Illinois Fire College every year. They'll come down and actually get in there and mingle with some of the other firefighters throughout the state. So they're really down to earth, and it's a good show.
I like the show too. I'm agree with you. When things are right again, what is the first thing you want to do to have some fun? I'm talking about the pandemic stuff. I mean, to get out.
Say that one more time.
What would you like to do once the pandemic is over? You want to go on vacation?
Oh.
Or just what?
Yes, vacation. I could use a beach right now. We canceled a trip to go to the beach, so I'm ready to get away a little bit and ready for this pandemic to be over with.
I'm right there with you. Do you have a fire dog at Charleston?
We do not have a dog.
Why not?
Well, we've got some firefighters that are allergic to animals, so it's always interesting to see them after they go into a house that has dogs or cats when they come back and their allergies are really firing up. So
last question, short answer, please. When you attend a wiener roast, can you have fun, or are you on call when there's a fire there?
Always on call.
All right, well, Tim, we appreciate you coming in. Short notice. You've been great today, and we wish you the best of luck and have a great holiday season.
All right. Thank you for having me.
We are WEIU.